authors, talk to publishing industry stakeholders about the book industry, about the publishing industry and how it's going. And today we have an amazing author with us. His name is Hemraj Ramdath, and he is the author of Beyond Indentureship, Indo-Trinidadian Entrepreneurs. He's a business consultant and a researcher. Welcome, Hemraj.
Thank you. Wonderful to be here, especially in beautiful Tobago.
Listen, and I have to tell the viewers how I know you, right? We met in Barbados many years ago, right? The Trinidad and Tobago Association of Barbados and all of that. So I've known you peripherally over the years.
In different incarnations.
Yes. And then I saw your book. I said, Hemraj, you wrote a book and didn't tell me. When are you coming on Book Club Corner? So we're so happy to have you here with us today. And this is an amazing book.
Thank you.
You know, when I saw the title, as usual, people usually say, what does that have to do with me? What does that have to do with Tobago? What does that have to do with the population? And I said to myself when I saw the cover of your book, I said, I have to speak to Hemraj about his book. Business, entrepreneurship, the life's blood, the private sector, the fuel that brings us to where we are today as a nation.
Indeed.
As the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and as well the wider Caribbean. And we're looking at indentureship. We're talking about migrants.
Yep.
We're talking about people moving from where they were once rooted to come to a new space, a foreign space, to find a place. And as the anthem and creed says, every creed and race find an equal place.
Absolutely.
And they did.
Yep. And they've all contributed significantly in their own ways.
Hemraj, I have to start this question. Everybody wants to know. Why did you write this book, this amazing book? Why did you write it?
Well, I think it's twofold. The first is I was inspired by my grandmother, who managed a stall in several markets, Pinal, Faizabad, Siparia, and Maribela. 4 markets in every weekend for more than 30 years.
Wow.
But she could neither read or write. She could not do math, but she was running a small business, you know, and many times during high school days, I used to go and help her. And I was just amazed then how she could manage to give change, how she can count, and she could never understand math or thing. So I said, wow, you know, but I mean, it didn't bother me at that time. I was happy to be there in the market. You know, you meet a lot of people.
Yes.
I think I told somebody as well, I think it started my career in business. So that was the Pinal market. And the Faizabad and the Maribela market must have been my incubator for my current,
You hit on something very critical. A lot of entrepreneurs start at a very young age. It's a seed that's planted at a very young age. And, you know, I'm speaking to a lot of different business people, and they always talk about their grandparents and their parents who they would go to work with.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when we talk about, you know, we say the word market, we talk about, you know, they were selling in a little parlor, they're selling in a shop. They took you to work.
Absolutely.
You know, let's call it what it is. We have these nice little words now, and it feels like if, you know, you have this grand job, but it took you to work.
Absolutely.
And planted a seed.
Yeah, indeed. And you had to do the job. I mean, you had to pack your produce. You have to make sure it looked attractive.
Yes.
So you understood a little bit about marketing.
Yes.
You understood about pricing. You know, so you understand some of the fundamentals.
And people. Most of all.
And it also gave you a discipline, because you have to be at that market open and ready to sell for 6 a.m. in the morning. So you better get there at 4. And lay out everything. So it taught you discipline. It taught you about banking when you get money to go there. It taught you about human skills. And of course, it taught you about how do you adapt to different environments,
Yes.
different markets, different conditions, because those days the markets were open.
Yes.
Right? So rain is falling. How do you protect your products and stuff like that? So it was incredible experience. And as you say, I think a lot of us I think, have learned from our own parents, grandparents, great grandparents, on the periphery a little bit, and I'm sure are using it today in their own lives.
Yes, definitely. Hemraj, you've touched on Indo-Trinidadians. And, while that is a topic that each creed and race needs to have, that deep dive into where we came from and what's happening, and kind of squeeze that knowledge out of the older folks, because they don't talk. Some of them don't share the information. And you having that conversation, when we look at this demographic, indentured laborers coming to Trinidad and starting businesses, could you tell us, before we go to break, a few things that you've noticed from the data you've collected from this demographic?
Okay. Look, I just want to go back for 1 second. Something I said there were a couple of reasons why I wrote the book. The first was my grandmother, but the second is that I have been working in the Caribbean sphere, building global brands for many companies here in the Caribbean, and I found that a lot of those companies are going into market without fully understanding the fundamentals. And therefore, I thought it was interesting to write up some of these stories, so it then becomes a pathway or a checklist for other entrepreneurs, especially who want to get into the export market.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is, as you said, you talk about migrants. You talk about, Africans came or brought to this part of the world after slavery.
We came involuntarily, unwillingly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Of course, the planters were always looking for cheap labor.
Yes.
Cheap, reliable labor. After the experience the Africans had on the plantation, there's no way they wanted to stay on the plantation.
Of course not.
So they moved on.
Yeah.
And then there was this vacuum of what was going to happen. So the first thing, they brought Chinese, they brought Portuguese, they brought Syrian, they brought Lebanon. This is why. And then when that failed, because most of those people were not used to working under those conditions, they brought Indians who were familiar with agriculture, familiar with sugar, familiar with rice.
Yeah. And the temperatures.
Absolutely. And in the conditions, right, as well. So, and they had some experience in places like Mauritius and Fiji and Guyana and South Africa and stuff. So they were already acclimatized. And therefore, when they came here, it was never the intention that these people would stay here. It was always, they came on a 5-year contract into one plantation, and then they would have had to go on to another plantation that they want. And then at the end of 10 years, they get a return passage home. But because they were so well acclimatized to the sugar plantations and cocoa and rice and everything else, that they were encouraged to stay, either by getting cheap land that they can buy, or by an incentive to stay on and getting additional lands near the estates that they can cultivate on their own. So that's how they start planting melancholy and eggplant and eggplant and kareli and same and bodi and everything else. Because these are things that they brought with them.
Yeah, I've heard that word in a while. Same,
exactly.
And carry that up.
So then they started getting some income from that, from those agricultural products. And that is what started the link between agriculture and industry. A lot of these people started utilizing peppers to make pepper sauces by grinding. The peppers were ground in the mills that they brought to convert rice. So they brought mills to separate the what do you call it?
The shaft from the rice.
From the rice, right? And they then started using those same machinery to do pepper sauce and guava jelly and jams and things. So that is where the link.
From there they went into agro-processing.
Agro-processing.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And other companies and people like Caribbean Flavors and Chatak and stuff started like that. Chief, same thing.
Yeah.
The other link was that people like Batu and stuff who were moving products from the sugarcane areas to the estate, right? So they had their own bull carts.
Yeah.
They would hire themselves out. And that's how they started.
Yeah.
And then they started carrying goods and stuff from Port of Spain into Tacarigua and other places, you know, and that's exactly how they started. And when the train extended the journey into the south, because most of the indented workers were southern based, right?
Yeah.
The extension of the train service all the way to Siparia helped to facilitate a lot of other businesses.
Yes.
Like people like sign contractors in Pinal and Siparia. They were then moving goods by the train to different places and people. So the link has started there. And in the case of KC Candy, they started making candies from boiling the sugarcane juice and making candies.
Yeah.
So that's why in my book that I talk about legacy businesses. These are all businesses that started from there, from the estates. Jalil, soft drink, sugarcane. It's the sugar that started soft drinks.
Yes.
And all these companies.
Well, confectionaries, you know, as an island that started heavily in the sugarcane industry, you know, confectionaries are something we got into a lot. And even in Tobago, we see a lot of sugar mills and unused mills now, of course, but we see a lot of sugar mills. And then you see the link between the confectionaries that we make here as well.
Yep.
You know, the sugar cake and the benabol and
and of course, they also had the link with alcohol, because a lot of alcohol
and now,
in Tobago.
And you know, Hemraj, I had to apologize to you because I couldn't provide you with some local wine today.
Another link.
You all know how we do it in Book Club Corner. We love to yak it up with some local wine. You know, we grease the wheels with local wine, and we support the local wine industry.
You also link industry.
Yes.
Because you talk about the local products that you're using, right?
Yeah,
berries and you said
fruits, roots, and the flowers they are using to make wines as well.
So that's another link to the agro industry.
Yes.
So it's fantastic.
You've talked about, when I was doing my research, 33 businesses case studied in your book. And that was, from what I know, what it takes to even have material for 33 case studies. That's a Herculean task. And I also, as somebody who loves research as well, I know it is hard in Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean to get access to that old data, that first-hand ethnographic data, where you get that person who was there, right, to tell you the story as it is and as it was. How did you get to these persons to talk to them about all that had happened and the history of how the business started and how it is today? How did that happen for you?
I think, first of all, my intention was really never to talk about Indian indentureship. It was to talk about entrepreneurship. Because my area of research really is slavery, indentureship, and entrepreneurship, linked all together.
Yes.
The issue I had is a lot of companies, private companies, do not want to speak to me. First of all, they don't know me. I live in Canada. I'm not linked in the Trinidad reading clubs or book clubs or anything, all right? So who is this guy, right? I mean, so I had difficulty in getting linkages to these people, except the ones that I had worked with. But through Professor Samaru at UWI, he was able to open some doors. And it then happened that the Indian community was willing to talk to me because of him. And that's why the book became Indo-Trinidadian
Yes.
Entrepreneurs, right? So, but
33 businesses.
right. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that
Yeah.
we had gotten approval for 45 companies to write it up. We published 33, but the rest were already written up and could not be approved because, sadly, some of the family members do not remember the history, or they have conflicting reports of the same history.
Yes.
Right? Because at the end of the day, each company has to approve what we publish about them, right?
Yes.
Because they're not publicly traded companies. So the challenge was to get that consistency of data across the family members. However, the ones that we did publish, we had a personal interview with every single one of these companies. It took me 2.5 years to do this.
Yes.
Right?
Wow.
It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work. And and not being here, it was difficult.
Challenging.
Yeah. But because I met in almost every case the owners, right, or the current owners, I should say, most of them knew the family history, and therefore was able to relate most of the data. So I think the only one we didn't have the contract person was Munan, which is a fabulous story.
Yes.
Because here's a guy coming from Rio Claro, with great ideas about converting a lot of things in Trinidad, and he promised to move mountains, and he did.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it demonstrated that to run a business, you need more than just a desire and hard work
and grit. Yeah.
But you need people who are experts in what they want to do. Because you can't have here the guy who had 16 companies, right? You have to put in place a structure, right? You have to be experts in HR, in marketing, in finance, in IT, to be able to do that. So one person is not capable of doing that anymore.
Yes.
And therefore companies fail because of something like that. So and that's the interesting thing, is that now we find that most of these companies that we've met are now talking about succession planning, now talking about putting board of directors, talking about governance, right? Because I think they're finally understanding that to run business today takes more than just a desire and some cash.
Yes.
You need much, much more than that.
I tell you, listen, Hemraj, I'm an entrepreneur. And many of us, we are entrepreneurs. We don't even realize it. We don't verbalize it, right? So you may have a side hustle doing something. We're entrepreneurs. And you have to be, the bottle washer, the cook, the lawyer. You have to write up contract. You're the secretary. You're the everything, right? You're the
HR manager.
Thank you. You're the HR manager. You're restocking the shelves as well, right? And you're doing it all.
Absolutely.
And it takes an army for your business to be run properly. And when we look at micro businesses, they can run with one person. A micro cottage industry business.
Absolutely.
But when we're looking at scaling up, when we're looking at, as you say, succession, continuity being, as we talk about in accounts, an ongoing concern. Years and years and years and years of being in existence and being profitable, we start to look at a different structure. Tell me, based on scaling up, going from cottage and micro, small business, having stalls in the market, running something, a parlor, maybe in the front of your home, selling plants in the front of your home, going from those small and humble beginnings to where a business is now a group, a conglomerate. How have these business people, these entrepreneurs, these family-run small businesses, how did they get to where they are now, where we could talk about Solo, and we could talk about SM Jalil, and we could talk about these companies? We're now calling them companies. They're no longer parlors and shops. And forgive my phrase, and for some who may be offended, but the coolie man driving around selling clothes on the back of his bike, right? How do we upscale?
So I just want to make a comment on what you talk about small business. It's a very exciting project I'm doing for the last 4-5 years actually in Cameroon, Africa. Together with the university, International University of Development, International Development, we take students from the streets who want to start their own businesses. We hold their hands. Whether you want to mind some chickens, or open a bookshop, or have a stall in the market, or buy 10 goats. We hold their hands and we say, okay, let's do a plan. Yeah, what do you want to get into? Yeah, you want to have a goat farm? Yeah, okay. How many goats you need? How much feed you need? How do you costing? How do you do your banking? How do you do your sales? How do you do your replenishment? And we go through the whole thing with them. Yeah, over a 1-year period.
Yeah.
The first 3 months is really to do the project. And if it passes the threshold, we get the funding for them as well. Right? And it's been an amazing, amazing project. We've had a request now to do it in Kenya. And because here you are, you take people off the street, 87% unemployment is something in Cameroon.
Wow.
Right? And you able to enrich those people's lives and the community.
Yes.
You know, so it's the same. I think we have to start doing that in the Caribbean. Universities have been an institution that does not link with the funding. So you have, I see banks are doing it now to give small loans, but you need somebody or some people who will take companies and mentor them.
Yes.
Right. Now I had asked the government, I'm happy to do that for free. I don't charge for nothing with this.
Yeah.
Give me 5 small manufacturers who want to get in the export market, and I will hold their hands and take them through. And I'm sure there's maybe 15, 20 other people like me who would do the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the first comment. Second comment, I think that when you look at a company like Jaleel that started with one little plant making products from a bottle and covering it manually, right?
Yes.
Today they're in about 65 countries. With plants in Saudi Arabia, in India, in South Africa, in Barbados. So they have been able to grow from one little micro business. Jaleel Solo has done the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, Ramps is now the darling of the business now. You know, the Ramps. So a lot of the people were able to take that and do with it. And if you talk about right here in Tobago, when you look at what York has been able to do here, I mean, I'm writing up the story as well now.
Yes.
As well. I mean, here he was able to start a small construction company and then move on to hotel management, right? And I mean, you know the story of him that he could not walk on the golf course of that urban bay.
Mount Urban, yes.
Couldn't, not allowed to walk on the golf course. And today he owns it. So it just shows it is about having a desire.
Success is the best revenge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, and MacLeod as well in Tobago. I mean, quite a few people out of Tobago have done exceptionally well.
So I can't wait for you to do those stories about Tobago businesses, because Tobago has quite a vibrant history of entrepreneurship. And, you know, sometimes we forget when we continually see persons looking for work in the public sector, right? And the CPEP and European, we're not knocking those jobs, but entrepreneurship and the private sector, that is what is going to fuel our economy and continues to fuel it, right? The small parlors, shops and bars, cashy, right? You know, that turnover of money happening on a daily basis is something that is, you know, when we look at the economy, it drives the economy consistently.
Absolutely.
You know?
And in any event, I mean, A, the government sector cannot absorb people.
Yes.
B, I think the innovation comes from the individual to a great extent today, because especially the younger folks, right?
Yeah.
You know, long ago, we always said to run a successful business, you need cash, you need a place, you need some management, you need all the factors of production, right? Land, labor, whatever.
Yeah.
Today, people like Uber has shown us you don't need to own anything. Airbnb, you don't need to own anything.
Yeah.
You just have to have some
Just an
desire
idea.
and intelligence.
Yes,
Yeah?
that's so
And COVID has
correct.
taught us well that, look, hey, I can have a business. I will sell you anything online. And a lot of people are now selling something and buying it when they sold it.
Yeah.
So you can buy a car, you can sell a car and then buy it when you're ready. So you
Because
don't have to own the money. You don't have to own the money.
the idea was that you'd have to have a physical product to have a business.
Absolutely.
And now
you
we've seen that idea and that concept turned on its head.
Absolutely.
That you're selling services, you're selling ideas.
Yep.
The knowledge market is what's happening right now. And once you are in the knowledge market, like you are, Hemraj,
No,
right?
I think so.
You're in the knowledge market, right? Understanding how businesses work and really being able to map out when you hear what data they're giving you, where that link is, what does that mean? You know, that knowledge market is important, and I think it's becoming more and more important as we move away from the idea and the concept that, you know, a business has to have a physical good.
Absolutely. And it's also empowering, eh?
Yes.
Because it allows the young folks today to take an idea and take it to market,
Yes.
you know, without any constraints.
Yes.
So this is an amazing time to be in business, right?
You could not have said it any better. We're going on a quick break. I'm so excited to have with me Hemraj Ramdath, the author of this amazing book. We're going on a quick break. When we come back, please don't go far. Get your snack, get your drink, come right back here, Book Club Corner. Jewel and Hemraj, we're talking about business, we're talking about entrepreneurship. You know, the conversation has been, are we moving away from the public sector and moving into the private sector where we can control our funds and our monies? And that's what we're discussing here today. Don't go far. We'll be right back.
This is how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up below. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show.
Quartz is well known as the Caribbean's largest retailer, providing consumers for generations with the very best products to enhance their homes. This year, we bring our expertise to businesses. Quartz Business Solutions will serve small, medium, and large companies with the very best products at the most competitive prices, backed by warranties and after-sales support. Hoteliers, office managers, restaurants, and so many more. Quartz Business Solutions, a brand of the Unicomer Group.
Think you know Premier League or Champions League football? What about international cricket or the IPL and CPL? How about NBA basketball? Well, now you can put your skills to work to earn some extra cash by betting on the games with TT Bet Arena. Simply go to our website, choose a sport you want to bet on, find the games and place your bets. And with your computer or mobile device, you can bet from anywhere. Just go to ttbetarena.com, sign up for a free account, make a deposit, and start betting. It's that simple. You can even qualify for our $2,000 sign-up bonus. We also have horse racing, plus live casino games where you can bet using TT dollars. And check our new Tobago location at 7B Milford Road, Crown Point. For more info, call or WhatsApp 494-0634. TT Bet Arena, the #1 sports betting company in Trinidad and Tobago.
Is pleased to advise that its Roxborough Service Center has reopened. Starting Monday 10th March, customers can once more visit the Roxborough Administrative Building to pay TNTech bills, request new connections, and more. TNTech, powering the nation into the next generation.
It's a different type of thing down there, and we party till we drop down there, with a lot of pretty girls down there, down in Tobago.
with Mr. Hemraj Ramdath. My name is Jewel Green, and this is Book Club Corner, where every Wednesday we're chatting with authors, publishing industry stakeholders about writing books and about books themselves. And today we're talking to the author about his book, and it's called Beyond Indentureship, Indo-Trinidadian Entrepreneurs. And in this book, Hemraj has documented, case studied 33 businesses. And I have to make sure I underline and delineate this point, that these are businesses that, while we're using the terms Indo-Trinidadians, what we're really talking about is that demographic of immigrants. And we have to understand the difference between persons who are already rooted and comfortable and an immigrant coming to a foreign space. And much of us in the diaspora living overseas understand when we move from our comfort zone into Canada, America, Europe, even different spaces in the Caribbean, we understand that that immigrant fire is something that really fuels industry and fuels our business idea, entrepreneurship, and innovation. So when I saw that you had this book, Hemraj, I said we have to definitely talk about this.
Absolutely.
You
Absolute
have
pleasure.
you have legacy businesses as one of the categories
Sections, yes.
in your book.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What is a legacy business, and why did you decide to put those businesses all together and to do a case study on them?
Well, I think the legacy businesses are those that are directly related to the sugar industry. Right?
Yes.
And they have the link, like KFC, like KC Candies and stuff, right? Jaleel, Munan, Batu Brothers, sign contractors. These are people who were actually working at the sugar estates and linked their businesses to the sugar industries. So either by transporting canes to the factory or taking goods and people to the factories and to their homes or to the shops around, right? Or these are people who started small shops in their neighborhoods to provide products for their families, you know, and I mean, even people like Charan, they actually started, I mean, they talk about books, they actually started from the sugar factories.
Really?
Yeah. And then there was another, also Mrs. Charan was the strength behind the whole thing.
Yes.
I mean, she had 10 children, worked in the market, planted her garden, took it to Port of Spain market and Shogunas market, and then when she started getting some money, she started to buy land. And that's how they have 4 or 5 bookshops everywhere.
Yes.
That is the link.
Wow.
That is the link.
I tell you, I'm hearing this common theme when we're talking about business. And this common theme, I'm hearing markets. A lot of people got their start in the market.
Yep.
I think, this is something worthy of investigating.
Absolutely.
And markets across the Caribbean.
Across the world.
Yes.
I mean, when you look at Rahmat Enterprises, Rahmat, Ramco and Rahmat. Rahmat is the oldest family-owned business in the Caribbean. Anywhere in the Caribbean. They're more than 180 years old. Right? Sorry, 148 years. Sorry.
148.
48.
Wow.
This year they're celebrating India 180th Indian Arrival Day this month, right?
Yes.
So yeah, but they started businesses 1888. 1888.
Yeah.
And they started selling on the street in San Fernando, in High Street. On the street.
Yes.
Selling cloth, selling small batteries and little things, and then went into automotive, into mechanic. They owned at one stage, I think, 10 or 12 gas stations, service stations, and they are the ones who transport all the fuel to the different companies. And also the cooking gas. So they started from one small little shop on the side and then expanded all over. The other thing was interesting. You talked earlier about bicycles and selling cloth. Jang Bahadur Singh, he and his brother started selling cloth on the streets in Penal. Out of that, they came to Port of Spain, opened New Yorker factory in Port of Spain, George Street, I think it was, had 5 retail outlets, and then went on to purchase property along the Lady Young Road, sold it to the government, and he spent more than $2 billion to develop West Mall. Starting from bicycle, cloth and a bicycle. And today they are developing the entire Edinburgh Gardens in Shogunas. All of that mall and everything else. 500 acre of land.
You know, when we have these conversations, it's always amazing to me, humble beginnings, small beginnings. And what is amazing to me is not the humble beginnings. Those are common stories. We understand them. In this day and age, right? What I love to call, you know, the Kardashian lifestyle. We all want to have a private jet. We all want to be an influencer. We all want to be, you know, going through the airport, you know, and having the paparazzi run us down. Listen, there is much to be said about humble beginnings and small starts. Where you start is not where you're going to end up, but you must start. And I think these 33 businesses from the Indo-Trinidadians that you have documented here is something to identify to us. Let us put a pin in it. Pay attention here. Small beginnings. Humble beginnings. And don't bother if people are saying, they reaching somewhere, they're doing something. They're looking like it's selling a little thing on the side, doing little tours. Because, you know, Tobago has a rich tourism background as well. You know, you have a little bed and breakfast, you're doing tours, you're down in Store Bay. You know, these little, who could be bothered with them? Go to university, get a proper job in the public sector. Go and get a job with THA or something. What you doing with yourself? Small beginnings.
Absolutely. And you
who knows where you'll end up?
Sadly, in some way, there's some school of thought that talk about not having a head for business. And for me, it's very incorrect. Very, very incorrect. Because to say Indians have a head for business or Africans don't have a head for business or Syrians have the best head for business is, for me, rubbish.
It is.
You know, because it is the fact that everybody's doing it. We not documented. We don't know. A lot of us don't know. Because when you look at the history of even when you look at Dupree, in spite of everything you say, that gentleman has done an amazing job to take a small company and transform it, right? Mark Senhouse, the same thing in Tunapuna. You know, and as I said, you go back to York all the time. People like that who have done so much. So it's not about you have no head for business. You have to just apply yourself.
You do.
Yeah. Now it's a little different because now you need intelligence, right? And
there's a little more competition in the market.
A lot more competition, but you can maneuver it. And the good thing with social media, you know what everybody is doing.
Yes.
So it's not like when you're starting a product and you're
wondering what the competitors doing.
Absolutely.
Go on Instagram, you'll see.
Because everybody want to show themselves.
Yes. Yeah. So, when you said Maxon House in Tunapuna, what do they sell?
Max started.
This is furniture?
Yeah. Many years ago, right? Show me the money, remember? Yeah?
I know it sounded familiar.
Yeah?
I heard
50s.
My mother said they got their
furniture
when my mom and dad married and they got their first apartment.
First bed, right?
She said they got she handed in an insurance policy and went to Maxon House and got furniture.
There you are.
And here we are.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I tell you.
And this is the point we make. You know, people like they're everywhere you go. Everywhere you go, you have people who have done exceptionally well. Some people have not done as well. But as I said, I think that
they can still get there.
They can get there.
They can still get there.
Because a lot of these companies
don't give up.
Yeah, a lot of these companies that I talked about here, may not exist in the same form as they exist today. A name might continue, but the family may not be there.
Yeah.
And most of them still have family connections. But in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years,
Yes.
I expect that they will have a different configuration, maybe more vibrant. Because when you bring in a different ethnicity, different cultures, different thought process,
And perspectives.
right? Absolutely.
And the markets and connections and
exactly,
networks.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
if you bring 5 people on your board, or on a different CEO than from a family, you take away the emotion from running a business.
Yes.
Right? And very often the emotion is what causes conflicts within the organization.
Yes, it's
So,
true.
yeah, so once you remove that and you run it like a real business,
Like a machine.
absolutely, and you're getting expertise from finance, from IT, from HR, from marketing, from environmental concerns, because that's a big thing now. You know, you have to be concerned about your how do you govern in terms of HR and in terms of your environmental policy.
Yes,
That's
and
significant.
your footprint in the environment in terms of that goodwill you want
Absolutely.
to
You can't
extend
continue
into
to
a
put
community.
dust in the atmosphere or water. I mean,
Yeah.
sugar drinks in the water. You can't
Yeah.
continue that. You know.
You have in the book, and you know, I'm one of those persons. When I get a book, I go from front to back, right? I leave out no pages, and I love a table of contents, and I loved your table of contents, Hemraj. You have in here, the book is categorized into some sections. You have legacy businesses, you have retail and wholesale distributive trade, you have manufacturing, you have transport and construction, you have here energy and energy related, real estate and housing developments, services, financial, medical, education, tourism, and then you have a section that is dear to my heart, Indian women entrepreneurs. And women entrepreneurs is what is near to my heart. I think entrepreneurship started with women. And I say that maybe a little biasly, right? Because I feel like when we talk to women, their impetus is to take care of the family, right? As well, men have started business to take care of their family as well. But I've heard a lot of people say, you know, listen, we were not doing well. We couldn't afford to do certain. I can't watch my children go hungry. And I started a parlor selling what? Selling the things I could make. Tulum, sugar cake, tampon ball, right? I remember when my father first went to America, it was for work. And, you know, at that time, the internet wasn't up on the powerhouse it is, and it was expensive to keep calling home, and money sometimes used to come through the postal service. I don't know if you remember, you go to the post office and get money. She'd go to the post office and get some money, and if it was late, she, you know,
couldn't pay the bill.
and she was a teacher, so she was doing after school lessons, and she was one of those teachers the children absolutely loved her. And she grew up in Caroni, and she made chow. She would make this big basin of chow, mango chow. And take, and we would be salivating like, how much of that for us, mommy? And she'd be like, not a piece, right? Because that
what left over?
Yeah.
After see.
And she started this chow business while she was teaching lessons, while she was, you know, being a teacher. At that time, the salaries were pretty small and slim. And I think, especially one of my sisters, she is the one who always I want to own a mall, I want to do this, when we were in primary school, right? And I used to be like, what is she talking about, right? But I think she saw that. She would sell cake at school, right? She would buy a box of Betty Crocker and add some flour and make 2 or 3 cakes, and she and my little sister would sell it at school. And I think that's why I see women going into entrepreneurship, to make sure they can control the flow of income into the household and make sure that they can, you know, help and make ends meet.
Yep.
But sometimes we don't hear enough about
Yeah,
the women who started
that's true,
business.
because
And you have a whole section.
I do.
Tell us
And
about
this was,
that.
in fact, this was limited as well, because we couldn't finish some of the interviews in time. Again, because I live overseas, I couldn't do the interviews. We've had like 4 or 5 women that we did not include. But when you look at people like Madame Hemraj, who left Trinidad, went to England to study, did a babysitting job to get enough money to become a hairdresser and become an institution in Trinidad.
Yes.
But she was also the inspiration behind Sasha Cosmetics.
Ah.
Right? Because Sasha Cosmetics, Kama Maharaj, is her son, right? Used to be in the saloon every evening after school.
He's now the Minister of
He's now
Trade.
Minister of Trade,
Yes.
exactly. And well suited for that.
Yes.
Because he has developed Sasha, and is now in about 100 countries. Yeah. And it's the official.
I use their makeup.
But there you are. But it's the official makeup of Miss Panama,
stuff.
Miss Colombia, Miss USA, Miss
Really?
Trinidad and Tobago. Oh yes. Oh yes.
Wow.
Because he developed a color for women. Sorry, he developed makeup for women of color.
Yes.
Right. Because he always said that he always found the women with dark women who do makeup looks like look. I forget the word.
They make us look like ghosts.
Like
It's
ghosts,
not the
yeah.
right
Almost,
shade.
yeah.
We look like we have
It's
that.
just white, so
Yes.
it's a powder. So yeah, and so she was the inspiration behind them. And I mentioned earlier, look at Helen Bagwan-Singh. Helen Bagwan-Singh was the only woman ever in Trinidad and Tobago to be recognized as the woman of the millennium by the Energy Chamber, and recognized by the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Commerce as the only woman who's inducted in their Hall of Fame. Only one. Up to now. That organization is about 140 years old now. One.
They have to do better. There are more women to be recognized.
Absolutely.
Yes, but they did well to recognize her. But
during her life.
Yes, they have to do more.
Yeah.
They have to do more and include
So,
more women.
and
in
then
the
I said,
stories.
you had Mrs. Sanka, who owns a little store here, got married to Mrs. Sanka, came to live in Port of Spring, in Couva, in Curep, started a little store selling puja items. She was a very religious person and started selling stuff like that, and then started cooking. And everybody, she used to import spices and mix the spices and make it. And people say, oh, food is good, tastes in Chatak. And that's how the name Chatak came into. And they're in about 40 countries exporting.
Yeah, I know they're in my home.
Right? Exactly, Chief has done exactly the same thing. So companies like that have continued. And then we have, there's Mrs., what's the name of a Regal product here, right here. In somewhere near Curep there. They do all the nuts and peanuts and some
And
healthy,
they do
healthy
custards
stuff.
too. I love their custards. Yeah.
Run by a woman as well.
Really? Yeah.
And there's a very interesting custard stores, supermarkets. There's about 6 supermarkets run by a woman. So these are the ones that we couldn't finish published.
Yes.
But I don't, it's sad that I may not be able to do it, because I have so much others. When you look at women, especially in Trinidad and Tobago, you look at like Maylin, you look at Penny, Commission, you look at these people and you say, wow, these people are not only entrepreneurs in their own right, but they are institutions of Trinidad and Tobago.
Correct.
So
Correct.
Even in carnival costuming, so I think that we really have to do much better, much better. To talk about this, to talk about even Genoa's.
Yes.
That is more than almost 100 years old as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It is the great grandmother or mother. I didn't do the research yet. Who started that business and has repositioned it as a fashion house. Long ago I used to go there for curtains and everything else. Now it's completely different.
Listen, I have to shout out Mei-Ling. She's not any personal friend of mine. I don't know her, but I have a girl crush on Mei-Ling for the longest while. I think people who can sew the bee's knees, they make magic happen. They can make they clothe you from nothing. right? And when is the textile industry going to start back up in Trinidad and Tobago? We were babysat by a lady who lived on that main road close to Dabity side. And I remember we would come out the gate, look down the street, and there was a big sign, Texaco. Right? There was a big gate. You couldn't see past the gate. It was so huge. Big sign, Texaco, and then the workers would come out in the evening. By that time, my mother would come and get us. But I always remember that from a tiny, tiny child. And I always used to be fascinated with the idea of sewing and making clothes. And those are some of the industries that women have gotten into.
Absolutely.
Because those are some of the things that are socially acceptable for us to be into, you know, sewing and seamstressing and all of that.
In fact, you know, you talk about selling candies in Tulum and everything else near in areas, but you know the history of Arima Discount Mart, which is Hemraj, who's now
I interviewed him on my show a while ago. He has a book.
His mother, right, who started a small shop next to the schoolboy parlor, I think it was called. Right? Selling candies and sweets and everything else that built that business.
A woman again.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
We do not give enough encouragement nor praise nor acknowledgement, I think, to the women who have started the businesses and were the impetus for the business starting in the first place. You know, just because you're the person who has the idea, but you may be the one in the back washing all the bottles and cooking all the food while somebody in front actually giving the change and selling, but you're the one who is running the business, really. And I think we have to look at that. Hemraj, what's next? Are you going to be writing a book? I have a few ideas for you. I'm throwing them out. I want a book on Tobago entrepreneurs, and I want another one on women entrepreneurs.
Okay. I'm happy to work with you along that to get it done. I like the idea of the Tobago one. I think that should be done. But right now I'm working with another project together at university, because you know I've always had a special interest in slavery. So whenever I speak to students, and I do that very often to high schools now, I talk about slavery and indentureship, slavery and entrepreneurship, because arising out of the slave plantations, so much things happen.
Yes.
So much people have done exceptionally well. And again, you talk about other migrants. You're talking about people who have done well here, or people who have gone outside and become second migrants into New York and Miami and Toronto and New York and London.
The diaspora.
Of course, the whole diaspora. They've done exceptionally well, almost in every field, right? Yeah. So you have what we call the second migration.
Yes.
Yeah. Where people have gone, and wherever they've gone, they have succeeded and done exceptionally well. You know.
Hemraj, your book. This is the first book that has taken such a deep dive into entrepreneurship on a local level, right? And not just on a local level, but on an immigrant level, right? We're looking at the demographic of the Trinidadian, the indentured laborers, but we're also going to be looking at those entrepreneurs that came out of the enslaved people who were brought here involuntarily. And what we're talking about here is really the idea that from a small, humble beginning, something can balloon into something so successful, right? And where we're going with this as a community, a Caribbean community, as a Trinbagonian community, where we're going with this idea of business. Is this something that we're doing well? Are we really looking at this the way we should be looking at it? These are case studies. Are we digging into our greatness enough and documenting it for the next generation?
Yeah. Sadly, I would say the answer is no. It's not being done. And I'm hoping with my next project I'm working on with UWI that they take it on as a project in almost every territory they are, to start documenting. This book is now being used at the School of Management in Barbados as a text in case studies.
Yes.
There's very few of case studies available. Most of when I had the pleasure of doing the first lecture of the course, and when you look at the case studies that are available, is everything about USA and globally, which is nice. You need to do that so you can benchmark what you're doing. Yeah.
Yes, I can see the benefit in that.
Yeah.
I can also see great benefit in
because people need to see that. Look, if you have
this is
an
introspection.
Idea, absolutely.
Yes.
But also an inspiration as well.
Yes.
That look, hey, these people were able to do it with nothing. Yeah.
You can too.
You can. You can if you wish to.
That's so inspirational. Listen, I have to say kudos to you.
Thank you.
Kudos to you, kudos to your team, kudos to all those who lent a hand, a voice, wrote a letter, did anything to help you bring this project to fruition. Tell us, in terms of your experience in the business world as a business consultant, how can a business go from, you answered it earlier when you talked about mentorship and funding, but how can a business go from perhaps something that is small, may die with the owner, small proprietorship, sole proprietorship, to becoming an ongoing concern, to becoming something that can live on? What's the leap? What's the gap that has to be bridged for that to happen?
I think the first thing is understanding what product or service you have. Yeah. So if you're doing hairdressing, for example, you know what you're doing. So I think A is knowing your product, knowing the market that you're in, and knowing the competition.
Yes.
Right? Once you know that, you can start leveraging your expertise or leveraging your contacts. Right? And in today's social media, you have a platform to propel your business. So it's just a matter of understanding your business, understanding it better, and understand that there are gaps.
Yes.
And understand that you need to fill those gaps with competent people. Yeah. And once you have the team, and sometimes family members are may not be the competent fit. They may not be the right fit. Right? And you have to understand that that's why you have to give a lot of credit to, you look at the Syrian community in Trinidad who've done exceptionally well. You look at Ansa Makal, family members are not running it. They are the chairman and whatever it is. But you have people responsible for running that organization and getting the resources that are necessary. Right? Because you're held to account.
Yes.
And therefore, to make that transition, you have to really understand your product, understand the market you're into, understand where you think you want to take this product, and get the expertise that you need to do it, either by government grants, either by other funding agencies, or people like me who are willing to give time and effort to help.
Yes.
But it is easy to make the leap. It is difficult when you want to go into new markets, because in getting to new markets, you need certain criteria you have to meet. Your product must meet the quality standard. You must have consistency of supplies, consistency of quality. I mean, everybody wants to get in the export market, especially Trinidad now, because they don't have foreign currency.
Yes.
But you have to be in a level of readiness to do that. Because that's what I do. I've had a special joy, I would say. I worked in about 46 countries. Right? Because I worked for Shell Oil before, and I worked in 33 countries in the Caribbean.
Wow.
And then I helped to build Chubby. I was the lead for build Chubby as a global brand, right, in North America and
Did
Europe.
you have a hand in that blue bubblegum soft drink? It's my favorite.
Yes, I did.
Love it.
In fact, I got a lot of licks for that.
Really?
I tell you why. You see, interestingly, I mean, we moved to Canada to develop the brand Chubby, but everybody wanted the traditional cola, champagne, and cream soda and stuff, right? Everybody wanted
Pish posh.
And I said,
that blue bubblegum Chubby.
Yeah, but here, you see, I say, if I want to build a global brand, I cannot build it on an ethnic brand, an ethnic taste.
Yes.
So I want to go mainstream. So I don't want 1 million Caribbean people. I want 30 million. Right?
You
So
have to
we
offer
reposition the
something
product.
unique.
we reposition the product by putting things like bubble gum and cotton candy and cream soda and stuff.
Let me tell you, parents out there, I know you've been looking for the person who got your child hooked on that bubble gum soft drink. We have it. I'll hold him for you. But let me tell you.
Having said that, we also put reduced sugars and zero sugar in it. Eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, I had a little cousin. As soon as he heard that chubby ad come on, he'd run to the TV. And, you know, we're talking about all these things, all these fun things, marketing and promotions and getting the business ready for market and getting ready to... Let me just put it out there. We've learned quite a few things from you, Hemraj. And I haven't even read this book yet in completion. I'm going to read this cover to cover.
Thank you.
People, we've learned some things. Let me tell you what we've been hearing today. Mentorship, funding, necessities of a business transitioning from micro and cottage to medium and large. And we're also hearing C students hire A students to do their business. There's a book about that. You may be a C student today, but you don't need to know everything. You go hire those A students, the only children who was getting A's in their class who want to work for somebody.
Yep.
You start a business and hire them, and they'll run your business just the way it's supposed to be run. And that's what you're talking about when you talk about, you know, family-run business. Doesn't have to mean that the family members are doing all of the, you know, because they do have the capacity. You know, but there's some important and small beginnings, small humble beginnings are important. If you don't build and work on your dream, somebody will hire you to do this.
Absolutely.
Get this book. Get it. This is a book for entrepreneurs. This is a book for people who want to move ahead in life in terms of your business. It's a book of case studies, 33 case studies. Get this book, get your marker, your highlighter, get your notebook, sit down with it and learn. You don't have to go to university. Hemraj has written all that you need to know in this book. Hemraj, where do we get your book?
Thank you. It's at University Bookshop, it's at Charon's, it's at almost all on Amazon as well, but in Trinidad, almost all the major
RIK, I think you're in RIK as well. I saw that.
And, at Cannes,
yes.
But University, UWI have it as well, in the campus, and it's and Sharon's, of course, yeah. And,
people of Trinidad and Tobago and in the diaspora, wherever you may be looking on today at Book Club Corner, this is your watershed moment. This is the day for you to expand your mind, expand your business, and get on that entrepreneurship trend, right? We are seeing a turn in the economy. We have had a change in administration, good or bad, whether you voted or not, whether this is your color or not. We're not talking about that. We're talking about where you and your family and your business is going and your business idea. Some of you are sitting on some gold mines. Get this book and get into the economic movement that's happening right now and help fuel your community, your family, Trinidad and Tobago as a whole, and the diaspora. We have to make sure that we do well, and the public sector cannot house all of us. We need to start doing work on our own. Hemraj,
absolutely. Thank you.
You've done a human service.
Thank you very much.
With this book. I have to thank you again. And by the time you come back, this book is going to be well used, Doggers and thing.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to get somebody in Tobago to carry them as well. That'd be great.
You're sitting with the right person.
Absolutely.
We'll hook you up.
Good.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here with us on Book Club Corner, where every Wednesday we chat with local authors, publishing industry stakeholders about books, about different topics, about what's happening in the publishing industry. My name is Jewel Green, and I invite you to come back next week, Wednesday, when we again talk to another local author about their book. And it's been a pleasure having you. Reach for the stars, get your business started, get up off of that sofa and get into the economy. See you next week, Wednesday.
Fabulous. Thank you for having me. Wonderful. Thank you.
You're viewing Tobago Updates Television, your exclusive gateway to Tobago, broadcasting the beauty of this island paradise to the world.